Welcome back to BCFM, the Beyond Coruscant podcast. Thank you for joining me today. You are live with Cooper, and on today's show, we are going to recap the week that was in pop culture and TV, including discussions on Maul, Shadowlord, Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, and The Boys Season 5. Before we get into today's discussion, please make sure to like the video and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube, and leave us a rate if you're listening on one of the many podcasting platforms. Your support is greatly appreciated as we push for 1,000 subscribers. We are so close. It's just me today, but I will have some thoughts from Jack. He has made his opinions very clear to me and wants to share. It's a shame he's not here because this would be a good podcast to record with him, because from what I've read, we disagree on a lot of things, which is going to be a fascinating duality to explore. Let's start with Maul this week. Normally we start with Invincible, but we've dropped off Invincible now, which is a shame. Maul Shadowlord, Season 1, Episodes 7 and 8. This was the one that I was looking forward to the most, because it'd been speculated online that the Creeping Fear, which was the title of Episode 8, was going to be the introduction of Vader. I was certain that we were getting a Maul versus Vader fight. Now I'm not so sure. Even with the tease from last week as well, with Marek speaking to his lord, which we assume would have to be Vader, I thought we were getting it this week, but we didn't. But that's not to say that this batch of episodes was bad. I think Episode 7 was the best episode of the season so far. It was so well paced, so well edited, so well animated. The music was fantastic, some great action. That kind of really just covers it all. And that's not even going into Maul himself, which is the fact that Maul, for the first time, was pretty much defeated. There was no way out. He could not escape the Empire. The Empire had been bought by Lawson, not by Lawson specifically, but by the by the law enforcement on Janix or whatever it's called, to the planet and to confront Maul. So his operations, he's seeing consequences for his actions now. And just the way that the Empire has felt so strong and powerful and, I guess, scary. Like, I don't really remember the last time the Empire has felt scary in an animated show, because they certainly didn't in The Bad Batch. And then in Tales of the Empire, they definitely didn't. So it was nice to see that the show has really lent into how damaging the Empire can be, but also how effective the Inquisitorius program was. Obviously, the success rate wasn't great, but you could see genuine fear in the eyes of Maul. He was scared. As soon as the Inquisitors said that Palpatine wanted Maul dead, he was scared. He was so scared. And I think that that's really interesting to explore that side of his character, because we have seen Maul be so relentless and gritty and just brutal, and now to see him more vulnerable like that was really fascinating. And I guess we know he's not going to get captured again, because they've already done that off screen and in comics with the Mandalore stuff and after Clone Wars Season 5. But I think it's really interesting that now that the Empire's evolved into the Galactic Republic's revolved into the Empire, that is different. And I don't know, I like that we explored that. I really, really like that we explored that side of it. The other side of things, Lawson, I just don't know. And the whole plot around making a trade for himself for Riley when Riley got captured, I was thinking the whole time, there's no way Lawson is staying, because he will die. Because if they're killing the captain, I forgot her name, but if they're killing the captain, then absolutely Lawson's not surviving. And then it kind of got to the point, I'm like, well, there's no Imperial patrol looking at you. Both of you get out of here. It's like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of silly, but not everything can be great in this show, and that's why that was Episode 8. I think Episode 7 was just perfect, even with the stuff with Dartalon. I forgot her name already. I'll probably remember it later in the episode, but just you can see the conflict brewing in her now. I think it's really awesome, because I mean, yes, I don't like bringing up the Acolyte, because it wasn't that good of a show, but we saw that slow transition from good to dark, but now we're seeing the transition from Jedi to whatever she ends up being. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a really awesome, slow transition. I feel like we have got to lose Darky next week. Uncle Darky, unfortunately. He's been an interesting character. He's really been the Jedi of... if I was put it on a scale, Darky would be the Jedi and Maul would be the Sith, even though he's not a Sith. And Darth Talon, I still forget her name, is the one in the middle. I see her moving back and forth towards Darky and then towards Maul. She's definitely moving towards Maul now. And I think next week, from some of the shots I've seen, I think they're teaming up. So I'm excited to see that. I just think that Darky will probably become victim to the Inquisitors, which is a shame because I've really enjoyed it. Speaking of the Inquisitors, this is the best Inquisitor action we have had all season, and I would argue it's the best Inquisitor action ever. I would say this is better than the stuff we get in the Jedi games. And that is top tier, especially the fights with like the second sister with Trilla. That's awesome. This is fantastic. This is so good. I would argue the top tier Inquisitor like fight moment is in Rebels Twilight of the Apprentice Season 2 when we get 3 Inquisitors. I think that's awesome. This is so much better. This is so much better. I want to just discuss quickly episode 8, which was the Creeping Fear, which was very different to what we expected. I did feel the runtime on this one. It was longer. Where episode 7 just, it was shorter, but it felt like such a long episode and they did so much. Episode 8, they kind of had a longer runtime, but I didn't feel like they did as much. It was cool seeing the visions, but it's stuff we'd already seen. It was more like a treat for Clone Wars fans rather than being something new. Getting to see Savage again was cool, but I feel like we could have done something bigger and better and in a more meaningful way. But again, not complaining. I think it was good, and I'm really excited for next week to see how this story wraps up. And I really feel like I hope season 2 doesn't take too long to produce because I've so enjoyed this series. I've so enjoyed it. It's been so good. If they'd done maybe 10 extra episodes for season 1 to kind of continue this story, I feel like great, because I feel like we've only gotten half of a story so far. I feel like we need to get the second half or the second season to really tell this story fully, and I'm super excited. Episode 9 next week is called Strange Alliances or Strange Allies. I wonder who's showing up because I don't want to get ahead of myself because we thought Vader was coming last week and he didn't. I don't know why you would call it Strange Allies if someone wasn't coming in. Anyway, we'll wait to see. I really liked Maul. What does Jack have to say? Jack liked both the episodes, but didn't like that they made Maul lose and be weaker because of his knee. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it added an interesting dynamic, and it means that we get more of the Inquisitors next week. And I feel like Jack can't deny that the fights were top-notch this episode. So to have Maul kind of be scaled back a bit was really fun, and it led to that moment of him collapsing the roof. That wouldn't have happened if he was just overpowered. And better Maul be overpowered by his own disability than by just the Inquisitors being good, because I feel like Maul would absolutely wipe the floor with them. So the fact that he's hindered, I think, makes it more compelling. It was visually amazing, and flashbacks were so good. Again, I don't disagree with the visually amazing because this is the best animation we've had in years, but the flashbacks, I don't agree. I think that they were a bit of a waste. It was fun to see, but unnecessary for the character, necessary for Maul, but we could have had something so much better. That's my only comment on it. So that's our thoughts on Maul. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, let's move on to... What do we want to move on to? Let's move on to Daredevil next. Daredevil... Oh, what an episode. Daredevil Born Again. I think that this was a good return from the disappointment of last week that I felt. I felt that Jess was underutilized. I felt like there was so much happening and not enough happening. There was like doing a lot, but not really anything meaningful. I really disliked the whole protest scene. We only really saw the outcome and ramifications of that. I really thought they were going to go really hard with that, like genocide or mass shooting from the AVTF, Anti-Vigilante Task Force. I really thought they were going to go like hard with that, like how in Andor they went really hard with the shooting the Empire against the Gormans. I really thought we were going down that route, and that's when the city would have turned against Fisk and the task force. But no, that didn't really happen. He is losing support. That's what we were told today. In the episode, he is losing support, and we can see the natural decline of his story. I think that, again, I just want to shout out Michael Gandolfini because he is a brilliant actor. He sold Daniel so well in this episode. And spoilers, if you haven't seen it, although if you're watching this, I'm sure you have seen it, Daniel meets his end in this episode. I want to praise his acting because he's so good. He was so good as Fisk's like puppet. I think he was so captivating. He was such a true New Yorker. He captured that essence. I just don't think his story came to the right resolution at the right time. What they did was right. Because Buck ending Daniel's life was the right way to do it, because that's the connection that had been built up and they'd built trust, and we learnt more about Buck in episode 5, which now makes me think episode 5 was even of more importance because we got to learn how he has to do what Fisk says, and we saw that in episode 5. So the way Daniel went out, that's fine. I just wish that maybe I feel like they could have taken his character into season 3 and then done that, and because I feel like there was still more story left to tell with him. He had gone from being a true Fisk loyalist to kind of feeling under the pump and maybe questioning it, but he'd always still had his loyalties. He had blind loyalty to Fisk, and that's what I liked about him. And then it's through BB that we see him questioning this, and he doesn't want to hand in his friend, which I understand, that's good character traits, but then he gives himself up, and that's where I think it's a stretch too far, because we had gone so quickly from him wanting to turn BB in to giving up his life for her. We didn't get to spend enough time. We didn't let that brew, and it just happened. And I don't feel like it was earned. It still was impactful when it happened, but we didn't let it brew, and the emotional weight didn't hit as hard. That's not to say that it was bad. Again, it was very, very good. In terms of what else happened in the episode, I thought it was good. Matt Murdock coming back, finally. We've had him kind of in the Daredevil suit for all season, and now he's back with in the courtroom, and it was fascinating to see that dynamic. And I thought when he was talking to Karen about what he was going to do, that he was going to reveal to the world that Matt and Daredevil were the same person, which I thought would have been a really fascinating thing to reveal. But no, it's just Matt going back into the courtroom, fighting against the AVTF. I thought that was an interesting way to go about it, and you can clearly see the momentum building. I loved what's her name, the lawyer that she's McDuffie. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name. I'm blanking. Oh, Kirsten. Her speech was awesome in the courtroom, saying that she's actually got an audience and that there's a jury to play to. I thought that was fantastic. Great writing from the writers. The best scene in this episode for me, without a doubt, was Heather and Karen talking. You can see it now that we know what's building for Heather. That whole interaction was fantastic. It was so well structured, and it was almost like it's like poetry. It rhymes, because we'd had that same interaction with Heather and Swordsman about the intellectual test or whatever it was, and we knew that she was going to flip it because she did the same for Swordsman to tip the scales in the thing. And then Karen's kind of rebutting, saying like stuff about Matt because she knows about Matt and Heather, and then that works against her because then now Karen's pitying Heather and Heather's abusing her. And I think, oh, this is fantastic, and I love that we're setting up Heather as, spoiler, Lady Muse in season 3. I think that's really interesting. We're going to get some interesting dynamics between her and Daredevil, I am sure. Really, really fun interaction. I really liked it. A lot of tension this episode. I think that we've been building from last week. There was definitely tension last week, but that was just too much. I think this episode, what differentiates for me from last week is that there were actual consequences this week, whereas last week it just felt like they were just throwing stuff at the wall and none of it was sticking. This week, some of it stuck. Some of it that was thrown against the wall last week stuck this week, and I think it really worked. We need more Jessica because she kind of just showed up for the fight last week and then said, "Oh, she's going, like she's leaving," and then she came back at the very end of the episode to obviously fight the fight. I assume we're going to take the fight to Fisk next week, so that'll be interesting to see how that ends up. Curious to see how they wrap up the season because I feel like there's still a lot of unanswered things. I just want to say, I think he's a great actor and he does it really well. But the guy who plays Officer Powell, like Conquest and Invincible, no one likes him. Hate him. Everyone watching hates him because he's like Daniel, Blind Allegiance, and he just uses it as an excuse to be violent and kill people. And I really hope he doesn't survive out of this season, especially if the AVTF is not going to go further. I wonder if in season 3 there's a whole thing in the courtroom where they go against the AVTF people, the officers, like they prosecute them and throw them in jail. I wonder, that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting storyline. Just to finish up on Daredevil, I just want to mention Jack's thoughts. He said that he didn't like it. He said it plays it safe and the editing was not great. No, I thought the editing was okay. And then he was not happy with Jessica Jones popping in and then popping out. Agree. Just spoke about that. Not a fan. They're not utilizing Jessica very well in this season. Things happening for no good reason. Not expecting a good finale at this point. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm cautiously optimistic about the finale. I don't know what they're going to do because I feel like a lot of it was done in this episode. A lot of the tension and story building was done in this episode. But the cast have said that episode 8 alongside episode 7 were the best episodes of the season. So far, I would agree 7 has been one of the top episodes of the season. I'm very curious to see how they deal with 8. And then, I was going to say we finish up with Daredevil next week. We do, but the following week we get Punisher, and then that will be the end of kind of our coverage of the Daredevil side. So, yeah, curious going into next week. Again, leave your comments down below for Daredevil Born Again, because, yeah, it was a fascinating episode. We'll finish up with The Boys, and now I have been paying very, very, very close attention to the discourse about this episode online from when it was released on Wednesday here in Australia to right up until I've recorded this on Sunday. There has been very mixed discourse. There are people saying it is the best episode of the season and it is one of the best episodes of the series. And then to go to the other end of the scale, there are people saying it is pointless, filler, waste of time in a final season. I fall somewhere in the middle. I do not think it is the best episode of the season. I still think that goes to episode 1. I think episode 1 was a really, really good episode. I do not think it is complete filler and a waste of time. I think we are in the trope now, and this has happened the last couple of seasons, and it happened in season 3, and people say that's the best season, just saying, where there is an objective, and they have to do things to get to the objective, and sometimes they take a wrong route, or they get there and it's not exactly how they thought, and then they have to readjust to that route. It happened in season 3 in trying to find Soldier Boy. It happened in season 4 in trying to find a way to use the virus. And now it's happening in season 5 for the V1. Yes, it is a tried and true trope of the boys, of superhero, of the genre, of storytelling. It just happens. I think it is a little concerning that it is happening so late into this season. I feel like they could have done a lot more. Now, the saving grace for me, I feel like we wouldn't be having this discussion or be feeling this if there was no deaths, but there was, and it's just progression. And Anthony Starr came out, I saw, he said, to those worried that there is not enough happening in terms of the death department, don't worry because it's coming. So that means we are getting deaths in the next couple of weeks. And I think that this episode set that conflict up really well. What did I want to say? Yeah, okay. First things first, this was a really, really fun episode. The structure of the episode was awesome. I was very confused because when we got the firecracker title, I was all excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're telling a firecracker story. How interesting. And I'm like, what a perfect character to tell this story from, like the perspective from, because she is one of the most complex characters outside of Homelander and so crucial to the story. And I feel like we haven't done justice for Firecracker since being introduced, because people are like, what's her power? What's the point? But to be fair, we don't really see most of these characters use their powers anymore. The Deep doesn't really use his powers. Noir, outside of episode 1, hasn't used his powers. Homelander's barely even used his powers outside of episode 1. So I think Firecracker, and I've said this since she was introduced, Firecracker's power is not what makes her special. It is her loyalty, allegiance, her upbringing to worship God. Her faith is her superpower. That's what keeps her strong. That's what keeps her beliefs. And that's what makes her such an important character. And that's why Homelander ascending into this God arc is important for her. And that's why I like how the story's kind of crossed over now, because it's an incorporation of what we set up last week with the Democratic Church of America into now Homelander ascending. How is that ascension going to work? I'm just thinking about it in my head now. Ties together the Black Noir, the Oh Father story as well. But just back to the episode structure, really like that we got 5 different perspectives and that it all merged from one, the 7 meeting at the start of the episode. I thought that was really fun. Love that. I cannot praise Valerie Curry enough. She is a brilliant actress. She gave one of the best performances of the season so far. She will be missed. Unfortunately, it was expected. I knew she was going to have her demise at some point. I thought maybe in a different way, because maybe something from the media side would have gone wrong. Maybe if the Flight 37 video had gotten out later in the season, that she would fall victim to that, because she's kind of controlling all that with Truth Bomb. But no, I thought this was a more impactful way to go out. I really thought there was an option for the story to redeem her, because there were so many times throughout the season where she's like, when Homelander's talking about I am the Lord, she's like, I can't do this, I can't believe this, I can't believe in you. But they chose not to do that. They chose not for her to stand up. She, like Daniel in Daredevil, was blindly loyal to Homelander. She was willing to change her belief, even if it meant crushing her old pastor and her old church. She did that. So she is a character that is wildly complex and brought so much to the show, did so much for Homelander, will be missed, because, yeah, she was fantastic. She was fantastic this episode. The noir stuff, people say wasn't that captivating. I thought it was fun, and it really just solidifies that this deep and noir stuff is going to happen. I feel like next episode we are going to get the ascension of Homelander and the Black Noir stuff, being able to fly, being able to talk, the stuff that he spoke about to Oh Father in this episode. That is going to happen. Deep's going to get jealous and they're going to fight. One of them is going to perish. I've seen people say that it would be more impactful for Noir to die. I don't know. I feel like Deep's been a thorn in the side this whole season, so it would be poetic justice for Noir to get to Deep. But then who ends Noir? Because there's no real conflict left. Maybe Soldier Boy, but they were in the same room, so Soldier Boy probably knows that it's not the same Noir, like now. The other option is Deep kills Noir, and then Starlight kills Deep as ultimate revenge. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. That's too much. The Terror storyline, yeah, it was okay. It was probably the weakest, but it was interesting to finally get more of his involvement in the story, because I know he's involved heaps in the comics. Sister Sage, we finally got the reveal of her plan, and the fact that it's not for Homelander, it's for herself. That was really fun. And then just to finish up on this episode, Soldier Boy and the Homelander storyline going to LA, meet Mr. Marathon. Welcome to the series, Jared Padalecki. I've always mispronounced his last name. I never watched Supernatural, but I have seen him acting and he's fantastic. So I liked his inclusion. I didn't think the story was as impactful as it could have been, but overall I liked it. And clearly we've seen Homelander deep out a couple of times this season, so clearly there's more going on than we thought. Next week, I am expecting the V1 to be found. We will get Mason die, finally, as bomb site. I'm sure we'll get some other members of the original Vought Rising cast, I'm sure. I wonder if Stormfront is going to make an appearance, because there was the setup that there was no body. There was no body found, so maybe Stormfront could still be out there. I don't know. I don't know if they would bring her back unless there's a meaningful contribution. Unless it's to do with Soldier Boy. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get into all of that. Next week's got to be an important episode. They have to get the V1 next week. They can't delay it. Next week has to be a good episode. My last comment was I said it was filler but important. I don't necessarily agree with the filler part because we did have story progression. So I'm going to retract that. It was important. And also, my favorite part of the episode, the memes. This is a meme farm generator. It's insane. When I saw that Homelander one, oh, that was hilarious. That's my favorite meme that's come out of season 5 so far. Unbelievably funny. It was so good. And just to finish up with Jack's thought, he said, whilst I feel people aren't going to like it because it's the final season and we need to get a move on with it, I loved it and I thought it was funny, paced well, and the perspectives were very good. Simple as that. You know what, Jack? I agree with you. I agree. I thought it was well structured, it was well paced, it was funny, and yes, people online are dissing it already, which is such a shame because I think it deserves its flowers. It's a good episode. It's a good episode of TV. Yeah. That's our thoughts on the week that was in pop culture. It was a shorter week this week, obviously, because no Invincible. For those who have been paying attention, who follow us on Instagram, I have been reviewing Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. I will have a video out about that, a longer form video, because I have so many thoughts on that show. And after the finale on Friday, interesting to see how they go forward with this series, if they go ahead with the season 3 or not. But anyway, that's for the video. Thank you for watching. Again, like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and we will catch you next week. Jack will be back next week and we'll discuss Daredevil finale. We'll have The Boys episode 6 and the Maul finale as well. Very, very exciting. Alright, catch you guys.